Next, if you would like to participate using our Spanish translation channel and are using a computer, please select the globe icon on the lower right-hand side of your screen and select the Spanish option to hear the presentation in Spanish. If using a mobile device, like a phone or tablet, please select the More option indicated by the 3 dots, select Language Interpretation, and then select the Spanish option. Everyone joining this Zoom session will automatically be entered in as muted, though there will be opportunities to speak later in this session. For those new to Zoom, and as a reminder for the rest of us, I'd like to call your attention to a few features on the lower left-hand portion of your screen. You will see several options where you may also see the mute button when available. We ask that you remain muted until the discussion portion of today's meeting and when your name is called. To activate the mute unmute option, please select the mute button on your screen or dial *6 on your phone. If you would like to show your video, you can select the video option to turn on your camera. Please note this may increase demands on your internet connection, so you may need to turn it off if you are having issues. If you would like to communicate with anyone during the presentation, you can also utilize the chat feature at the bottom of the screen, and you will be prompted with a text box to type your question or comment. If you would like us to call on you during the presentation, please use the raise hand feature or dial #2 on your phone, and we will call on you in the order received. When called, please state your name and affiliation so that we may better address your question. With that, I would like to pass it over to Vice Chair Berg to begin the presentation.
Thank you very much. So just as a reminder, our incentive program advisory group is doing 3 workshops so that we can review the very important program of the Carl Moyer Incentive Program. And last meeting, we got lots of great ideas, terrific participation. We're looking forward to this meeting as well. So where do we start? Let's start with the agenda. First, we'll go over the meeting recap from April, and Davina will be leading that. Then from there, staff will take over the program, and we'll go over the Moyer incentives for all. And then we will dive into the equity incentives, further discuss program improvements to increase equity, as well as small fleets, and really looking forward to more feedback on this at this meeting, both on how we can improve both small fleets and our equity participation, as well as with I see 88 participants, and we'd really like to know who's attending today. And so with that, we're going to do a poll. If we can put up the poll. And if you can participate by answering one or checking off what is most helpful to you, looking at infrastructure, looking at opportunity to create an alliance between large and small fleets, and then it disappeared.
Sorry, folks. We had the wrong poll popped up. That poll is for later. We will populate the other poll really soon.
Yeah,
okay,
I thought that I appreciated that. I was going with it, Penny, but I was thinking Okay, so here we are at the right poll. Hey, if you're a small fleet, 10 or less, please check that first box, then medium, and then large fleet. If you're a truck OEM or in the supply chain representative, EJ community representatives, we have a box for you. Interested citizen, NGO or community-based organization, industry trade associations and Chamber of Commerce, consulting company and service providers, really excited. I think we have a few of those on the line. And of course, government agencies. So if you'll just take a minute and populate that poll, then we will be putting that on the screen and let everybody know who is attending the meeting today. And while you're doing that, why don't I kick it over to Davina, so she may review, what did we hear at our last meeting in April?
Well, thank you, Vice Chair Berg. Well, one thing is for sure, it's clear each and every one of us has an important role to play. We learned a lot of great things at our last meeting that you will see that we've acknowledged. I'm going to highlight 6 key themes that we really did hear from the public last time around. If we could switch over to slide 3, that would be great. Thank you. So we really did hear the importance of Moyer incentives to all fleets. We're talking about small, large, but also thinking about how equity works with all of them and being very thoughtful about that. We want to continue the Voucher Incentive Program, VIP for small fleets, and increase access to small fleets with, again, a focus on the communities where they're traveling and working through, and also the communities, meaning the owners and operators that are in those communities specifically. We also heard the lack of user knowledge on the incentives and how they can be interconnected. And we're trying to learn more and more how to build a knowledge on how those can be interconnected, and make sure everybody understands what the floor to these incentives are and what more you can build to get better savings and efficiency and meet our climate and air goals. We also learned the critical need for infrastructure packaging. There are opportunities to pair vehicle purchases with infrastructure. We know, especially when it comes to small fleets and thinking about public infrastructure, how do we weave all those opportunities together? How can there be larger fleets that work within the community, or community benefits of sorts when it comes to infrastructure packaging? All things we should talk about. If we could switch to the next. We also learned about equitable access for financing. We need to explore opportunities for other sources of funding. It's just a very heavy lift for small fleets and even folks in underserved communities. And so we need to talk about that more. We need to be honest and have the hard truths put out on the table about who is able to achieve financing, who's not, what are some of the barriers. And so more future conversations around that space. And last, enhance equitable outreach opportunities. You can never do enough outreach, but we know we need to be equitable every time we think about talking about these issues. We need to determine how we can be more effective in addressing equity when we're reaching small fleets, when we're reaching out to the underserved communities, and also letting them know that there is a great opportunity in the incentive packages. So we will explore where assistance should be provided through the transition to zero-emission technology. That thought was repeated over and over. And this is actually just some of the things, and in fact, I'll just highlight they were the key things that were noted in our last April IPAG meeting. And so more to come.
And what's great is that really is the basis for our meeting today. We're kicking off from that platform and going to be revisiting. Staff is going to be giving us additional information and proposing ideas, and that will be the basis of our conversation today. But before we start, let's get back to our poll and see who is joining us today. So we do have, oh, great. We have some a good representation for our large and fleets, our OEMs, our NGOs, and also the consulting and service providers. Some exciting things are actually happening in that space, looking at turnkey opportunities for all fleets, but they're focusing on the small and the medium fleets. We appreciate those small and mediums that are joining us today. We know it's very difficult. You're running your routes and getting the work done today. And so really appreciate. As well, we do have some EJ representatives, and we know that is also a heavy lift to be able to join in. Appreciate that. And so one more, let's go through one more word cloud, because as we get started, the reason that we are all here and 3 board members are here participating is because we know that there are barriers to using our incentive programs. And so we'd love to do a word cloud to see which barriers pop up the most. And remind me, Sandra, what do we have everybody do?
Yeah, no, great. And with that, I'll go ahead and I'll pass it over to Yadir. He'll be walking us through this word cloud exercise.
Hi, I'm Yadir Osornio, Carbs staff, and I will walk everyone through the word cloud group exercise. Give me a moment while I bring it up. Alrighty, so please go to www.menti.com. For our callers, that is www.m as in Mike, E as in Echo, N as in November, T as in Tango, I as in India.com. And enter the passcode at the top of the page to participate, which is 95974153. Again, the passcode is 95974153. Opening the polls now. You should be able to see the word cloud question on the presentation, as well as your own screen. The question is, what challenges have you had accessing incentives? For example, awareness, solicitation period, accessibility, funding, etc. Again, the question is, what challenges have you had accessing incentives? For example, awareness, solicitation period, accessibility, funding, etc. There are 5 fields to enter the words or phrases. If you prefer, please go ahead and fill in as few or as many fields as you would like before pressing the submit button. And I'll just go ahead and start a 2-minute timer.
These word clouds is that the program, of course, starts adding up all of the similar challenges. And so the more times that people mention a particular challenge, that word gets bigger. So where we started out with funding being the largest, look, awareness, scrappage, and funding are pretty equal in their challenges.
That's really telling.
It is telling.
Mhm.
Okay, this is really great. If we, and infrastructure continues to be right up there in the top.
Mhm.
But I love stacking in there and the awareness of stacking. It's so important. We have so many different programs, and the ability to layer one on top of the other to truly make a financial impact is very important. But how do you do that? I love confusion, not budgeted. Regulatory deadlines, these peripheral things, they look small up there, but none of them are small. And so even if you get down the awareness, the funding, you figure out the scrappage, and then you've got to tackle all these other hurdles. And so one can see where how important the incentives are, but how much time and effort and difficult it can be to take advantage of them.
They're interconnected without a doubt. And solicitation period, like that's something that I don't think we heard a whole lot about, but now that's a big piece of what folks are speaking to here. And the technical assistance, that's something that we can do on our end and think
Yes.
about how to support those who maybe do not have consultants. What information can we uplift on just even our website or our hotline?
And availability of equipment. We could all said and done, but if the trucks aren't available, then that is also a challenge.
And we can't overlook not enough money. I hear
Yes.
whoever wrote that, I understand clearly.
Yep, yep, and it's absolutely true. The need far exceeds the funding that we do have. Okay, this has been a great, appreciate that. And so with that, we're going to turn it back to you, and let's start our program.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Vice Chair Berg. Thank you, everyone. And everyone, my name is Sandra Nguyen. I am the On-Road Lead Staff for the Moyer Program, and I'll be providing today's presentation on the Carl Moyer Incentive for all fleets adopting to zero emission. As you just saw, the word cloud, this is an interactive discussion, and we welcome and we encourage feedback. There will be times throughout today where we encourage participation. Feel free to raise your hand and a Carbs staff member will unmute you. As Vice Chair Berg recapped, one key theme, Vice Chair Berg and Davina recapped, one key theme we heard from our last IPAG discussion was to better understand what roles certain programs play in regards to available incentives, as well as where the synergies between the programs are within the agency. One program that tends to get overlooked as a viable partnership with Moyer Incentives is the Truck Loan Assistance Program. This program offers assistance for small business fleet owners affected by Carbs in-use truck and bus regulation to secure financing for upgrading their fleets with newer trucks. Financeable vehicle and equipment include new and used trucks with a 2010 or newer engine model year certified to the 2010 emissions standard. The scope of this program has expanded to include zero emission trucks,
se ha planteado para
allowing
una cero emisión.
the scope of this program has expanded to include zero emission trucks, allowing additional Moyer incentives for qualified applicants.
Para traer más
The
incentivos
Truck Loan
para los
Assistance Program
aplicantes.
helps small fleet business truck owners that fall below conventional
Ayuda
lending
a los
criteria. Not sure, is anyone else hearing the translation or is it just myself?
I'm hearing it.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
we're hearing it.
I
Not
think,
enough.
yeah, can you check, can you go over to the other channel, please? I'm not sure who's speaking, but you'll have to go on the other channel to translate.
Let me. It's breaking up. Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
Can
Okay.
you-
Let me switch.
thank you. All right, perfect. Okay, so one program that tends to get overlooked as a viable partnership with Moyer Incentives is the Truck Loan Assistance Program. This program offers assistance for small business fleet owners affected by Carbs in-use truck and bus regulation to secure financing for upgrading their fleets with newer trucks. Financeable vehicles and equipment include new and used trucks with a 2010 or newer engine model year certified to at least the 2010 emission standard. The scope of the program has expanded to include zero-emission trucks, allowing additional Moyer incentives for qualified applicants. The Truck Loan Assistance Program helps small business truck owners that fall below conventional lending criteria and are unable to qualify for the traditional financing for cleaner trucks. State funds are deposited as contributions into a loan loss reserve account for each participating lender to cover potential losses resulting from a loan default. Qualified applicants can pay down the loan with Moyer VIP incentive funding. Furthermore, similar to our VIP program, our voucher incentive program, this option is
Estas
exclusively for
opciones son exclusivamente para los pequeños.
small fleets with 10 vehicles or less. Another funding partnership for Moyer VIP projects are CAP incentives. Assembly Bill 617, also known as AB 617, directed CARB in conjunction with local air districts to establish the Community Air Protection Program. To support the AB 617 effort, the legislator appropriated incentives funding to support early action to address localized air pollution in the most impacted communities. With expansion of zero emission into this year's VIP program, there is now another funding option that is streamlined, simple, and speedy to support community-guided zero emission projects. Next, we'd like to highlight Moyer State Reserve. Flexibility built into the program, which allocates 10% of Moyer funding each year to provide grants focusing on specific project types. Past project types include vehicles funded through the Voucher Incentive Program. This year, State Reserve is partnering with the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Program known as CORE.
Programas de equipo que están fuera en las calles.
Via CORE is to go to small businesses only. Moyer funding is then stacked, so incentive opportunities are maximized to further accelerate adoption of advanced technologies in the off-road sector. This effective partnership provides another example of how collaborative Moyer incentives can be to further accelerate the deployment of advanced technology. Funds other than the Moyer program grant funds may be used to co-fund with the Moyer program eligible projects, Moyer program eligible projects, when all program criteria associated with each funding source are met. Co-funding allows projects to be approved with
La
support
fundación de COA es para dar
up to the total eligible cost of the project. In addition to co-funding, federal funds may also be used as Moyer program match funds. Outreach opportunities are underway to further strengthen the partnership with Moyer incentives. First, we are exploring gathering and providing feedback through the existing CalSTART process, offering incentive opportunities either through Moyer VIP or HVIP. For example, if you're willing to scrap said truck, you could receive up to $410,000 through Moyer, or if you keep said truck, you could get up to $120,000 through the HVIP program. And lastly, there are collaborative efforts underway to improve existing financial and non-financial support for zero-emission vehicles. CARB is working on many other efforts to support the transition to using zero-emission vehicles, and recently the legislator passed Senate Bill 372, known as SB 372, which directs CARB to develop supporting programs in this effort to assist fleets as they adopt zero-emission technology, which we'll describe in the coming slides. CARB incentive programs have their own distinct goal that support the state's broader strategy. For simplicity, these programs have been categorized into two funding options available to an applicant: vehicle replacement or fleet expansion. Depending on the fleet's needs, one option may be more appealing than the other. On the right, we see that no required change to the existing fleet to fund the new zero-emission truck. This option may be more appealing to a truck owner looking to expand their fleet. Whereas on the left, vehicle replacement requiring scrapping your old truck to fund the new zero-emission truck. In this scenario, we can see scrapping the old truck produces immediate emission reduction, which can be accredited towards the state implementation plan, also known as SIP. Furthermore, this option may be more appealing to a truck owner that may be limited by the number of trucks allowed in their fleet due to taxes, resources, financing, or even qualification purposes in wanting to remain a small fleet. Now let's take a look at, depending on what funding option you choose, based on your needs, what incentives are available to you. Listed here are incentive programs to expand your fleet. The Hybrid and Zero Emission Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Program, known as HVIP, is part of California's Climate Investment, a statewide initiative that puts billions of cap and trade dollars to work reducing greenhouse gas emissions, strengthening the economy, and improving public health and the environment, particularly in disadvantaged communities. HVIP vouchers allow purchasers to buy clean vehicles for your business or fleet with no scrappage, and it's a first-come, first-served model. Next, the CAP incentive program is also part of California's climate investments and offers funding with priority on community-guided zero-emission projects. Fleet expansion is only available for community emission reduction programs, also known as CERP. So please contact your local air district for more details. Lastly, the Truck and Loan Assistance Program, which I mentioned earlier, leverages public funding with private funding for participating lending institutions. Fleet expansion is exclusively available for small fleets. Potential financing includes new and used trucks with a 2010 or newer engine, including zero-emission technology. Eligible borrowers must have 100 or fewer employees and 10 million or less in annual revenue averaged over the 3 years. Again, this option is only available for fleets with 10 or less vehicles. Next, we have incentive programs to replace your truck. Each of these programs have their own distinct goals that support the state's broader strategy. Both CAP incentives and the Truck Loan Assistance Program also offer truck replacement options for eligible applicants and are listed here. Next, the Proposition 1B program, also known as the Goods Movement Emission Reduction Program, is a partnership between CARB and local agencies, air districts, and seaports to quickly reduce air pollution emissions and health risk from freight movement along California trade corridors. Local agencies apply to CARB for funding, then those agencies offer financial incentives to owners or equipment used in freight movement to upgrade to cleaner technologies. Projects funded under this program must achieve earlier extra emission reductions that are not required by law or regulation. The local agency requires that the old truck be scrapped, permanently removed from service. In addition, Volkswagen Mitigation Trust, known as VW, provides funding to support the expansion of zero-emission trucks available in the heaviest weight class. Both public and private entities that own and operate eligible vehicles may apply. Funding is available to replace your Class 8 freight truck, including drayage, waste haulers, dump trucks, and even concrete mixers. Basic requirements do include scrapping the existing vehicle. And then lastly, the Carl Moyer Program is part of the broader portfolio of funding that CARB administers to improve air quality, enhance community protection, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Moyer Program is a scrap and replace grant program that funds the incremental cost of cleaner than required engines, equipment, and other source of pollution. Similar to the other programs listed here, scrappage is required, with emission reductions achieved by the program being accounted towards the SIP. So once you've identified the option based on your specific needs for your fleet, naturally the next step is, well, how do I access incentives? Here we show you a 4-step process on accessing CARB's portfolio of incentives for eligible applicants. Step 1, choose the option best suited for your fleet's needs, vehicle replacement or fleet expansion, as we described earlier in the prior slides. Step 2, apply online or in person. Depending on which incentive program suits your needs, you may need to apply with CARB or at a participating air district. Step 3, determine eligibility. The implementing air district or agency will work with you to identify if you're eligible and what path is best for execution, either calculated, contract, or predetermined voucher. Typically, the contract route is typically reserved to provide the most flexibility for the applicant. Projects that do not fall under any described category or do not meet all the requirements may still be eligible. That being said, as a result, these projects may require additional time, requirements, and/or resources depending on the details of the project. In the Moyer program, this is an example of our case-by-case process. Furthermore, implementing air districts and/or agency retain the authority to impose additional requirements to address local concern. Predetermined or voucher projects have been vetted by the implementing agency or participating air districts. Eligible applicants looking to apply for this specific project category can take advantage of this simpler and faster route, as the work, many of the assumptions or details of the project have already been done for the applicant. Typically, these projects are narrow in scope to provide a streamlined voucher option. Based on the details of your application, and the implementing air agency or participating air district can guide you on what path is best suited for your needs. For more details, we have listed here the financial assistance webpage on the Truck Stop website that lists all of the incentive programs that I discussed today, as well as how to apply to them. We have shared the link in the chat so that you can access it at your convenience. And then lastly, step 4, you receive funding towards your new zero-emission truck. VIP offers exclusive funding opportunities for small fleets with 10 vehicles or less to transition to cleaner technology, particularly zero-emission technologies. Understanding that small fleets have less resources than larger fleets, VIP is more of an attractive option because it's streamlined, it's simple, and it's speedy. Think of the 3 S's. It complements Moyer On-Road by offering quick and easy application submittal, simple and quick turnaround of voucher funding amounts, reducing the participants' upfront costs, and all forms and voucher amounts are provided annually to the district for streamlined implementation. Zero-emission funding opportunities are eligible in this year's 2022 VIP, offering more competitive voucher amounts for zero-emission technology while ensuring emission reductions remain surplus. For example, on average, a heavy-duty Class 8 truck driving slightly under $50,000 a year can receive up to the maximum voucher amount of $410,000. In addition, Senate Bill 513, also known as SB 513, provided Moyer the ability to incorporate infrastructure projects. Statute does not require infrastructure projects to meet a cost-effectiveness threshold, and with that, the maximum percentage of eligible cost is 50% for all infrastructure projects. One topic we have been discussing has been incorporating a more streamlined process. This particular voucher application process is an example of how Moyer VIP works. When we talk about a simple and streamlined process that is easy, this is what it looks like with 1 or 2 steps. Here we have selected the vehicle replacement option to suit the needs for our fleet. And to apply, you simply fill out the application at a participating air dealership located near you. The dealership will then forward your application to the air district, at which the district will evaluate and approve a completed application within 15 business days. As part of this IPAG process, we like to recognize an opportunity for air districts to contract actively with VIP dealerships that offer zero-emission vehicles exclusively. Said partnership would further strengthen the streamlined process as we enter into this zero-emission landscape. And with that, I want to pause for questions, and we would love to hear from any manufacturers, dealerships, or any implementing air districts on the call that would be open to. Would you guys be open to participating in this process? Do you have questions on VIP versus contract? We would love to kind of officially pause and hear some feedback on what has been shared. Simply raise your hand if you'd like to share something, and a CARB member will unmute you. Remember to state your name and affiliation so that we can better address your question. And with that, I'll turn it over to Cruz if there's any participants that would like to speak.
Hello, this is Cruz Minicata, and I'll be assisting with the attendees. I see Venus Marroquin has raised her hand or his hand. I will be allowing that person to talk. You may unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we having a problem. We try to acquire those zero emissions. We fill out the voucher. We went to the dealership. We went to 3 dealerships and nobody wanted to help us. They say that there's no trucks available. They're not doing the voucher. And this is the list I print out from the VIP list. Okay. So we went to 3 of them and they refused to help us. That's the issue we're having right now. Not just me, a couple of my fellow owner operators that we went actually to see the dealerships. They're saying they're not doing the voucher, there's no trucks, and there's a waiting list of 2 years. And if you want an electric truck, it's gonna be 4 years, and they're just not helping us. So that's the issue we're having, because we're having a 2008 truck that we want to scrap, and we went to the dealership and actually they say, no, we can't help you. So I don't know how we're gonna go through this program if there's no help from the dealership that you guys are sending us to. So that's my question. How are we gonna go about this?
No, excellent question. And we definitely want to follow up offline as well to make sure we get you in front of the appropriate dealership. Just out of curiosity, where are you located at? Just in a.
So I work out of Wilmington. That's where the yard is.
Okay. Okay.
So I went to a couple of dealerships around the area. And they say, no, we don't have any. We went to the one in Inland. They say they don't have any trucks. We went to the one over there by the 405 freeway. They say, no, we don't have any trucks. So, and the thing is, they're saying it's 2 years and we don't know if we're going to get any trucks. We can help you. And so I don't know what we're going to do, because eventually we have to switch over to the gas. That's what you guys want us to do, but there's no help.
Yeah.
They're not helping us.
Yeah, exactly. And as part of this process, you'll see in the coming slides is the VIP program, which we're describing here, is voluntary. There are certain districts that do participate in certain areas. And that's one thing that we're hoping to accomplish with this process is there a way that we can increase participation? How can we increase participation, not only at the district level, but at the dealership level as well? And so this feedback is extremely helpful for us. So thank you.
So Sandra,
Yeah.
this is Sandy Berg. I think we need to be more transparent. This is a brand new technology. These trucks are being built as quickly as possible. There is a wait time. At the ACT Expo, I did go around and speak to many of the truck builders. They were saying a year wait. And so how do we plan on handling this? And shouldn't we be communicating in a way that we're not sending people around to dealers to, quite frankly, be frustrated? Because I'm so excited that this Venus was excited about getting a zero emission truck, went to that effort. Thank you so much for doing that. But we need to be more realistic as to the kickoff of this transition to zero emission technology. So is there anybody from CARB that'd like to kind of give me a little insight?
Vice Chair Berg, if I may, just a quick comment and offer that I want to put out there. This is Peter Christensen. I'm the chief of the Innovative Strategies branch here at the Air Resources Board, and I oversee several of our heavy duty incentive programs, including the HVIP program that Sandra referred to. That is one of our programs that is largely administered by the dealerships. So I'd really appreciate understanding a little bit better the communication and the lack of attention, frankly, that you got at the dealerships. So I'd love to have a conversation with you online. We don't have to do that here today, but I would certainly like to spend a little bit of time with you, understand what happened, because yes, we can help you with that. We will help you with that so that you get the information that you need, so that when you're ready to place that order, that you can do that at the dealership of your choosing. So look forward to speaking with you about that.
Thank you.
If I could add to Peter, obviously Venus is one of many. And I'm just curious, for others who've gone through the same process of going to a dealership and not getting the assistance that they need, where could or should they reach out directly so that you have more data points to that issue and locations, quite frankly?
I'll start that response with respect to HVIP, and quite honestly, we can follow up on any of the incentive programs. Reach out. You're probably familiar with our HVIP website, which is californiahvip.org. We have a phone number there. We have an email address that you can use to share this experience. I'll make sure that the team is ready for that phone call or that email, and we'll follow up with you directly. In the absence of that, I'll open it up to other CARB staff who may have other points of contact, but I promise you that if you use that contact information, again, it's californiahvip.org. That is one of the avenues, and we will follow up and make sure that we can do everything we can to help you. Thanks for posting that in the chat. I see it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add in, this is Femi Alalaway, one of the managers here in our Moyer Incentive Program, as well as our Community Protection Incentives Program. And echoing what Peter said, we could definitely want to hear that feedback from you, and I think the air districts as well. So that's part of why Sandra was asking where you were located, so we can better understand where these issues are happening and which dealerships they're happening with. And again, we are looking to amplify the availability of these types of programs, because I think others just aren't aware of VIP. But again, we do, like Vice Chair Berg mentioned, we do have to recognize that it's challenge right now to acquire these vehicles. That is a difficulty that we are all facing and trying to provide accommodation for. But yeah, I definitely hear your frustration and want to try to work with you and any others that are looking to acquire these vehicles to, what are the best means of doing so. I think there's probably a little bit of learning that we all have to do in this new landscape of transitioning. Is maybe there's some more opportunities we need to consider. Maybe there's some more dealerships, or hopefully there's some manufacturers that are participating as well with us, that can help us understand what if there are other ways to access their vehicles, or even if they're hearing that frustration themselves, how are they adjusting to it. So again, I wish I had an easier answer to help get that vehicle in place, but I think we're all dealing in that same scenario right now.
Yes.
I see Gideon, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, and right before Gideon talks, might I suggest between Peter and Femi that we figure out one point of community contact on this, because I think that'll be really confusing for the community as to, well, is this an HVIP or is this a Moyer, or is this, so maybe the two departments or groups can figure out one point of contact on this topic. And I'll now throw it over to Gideon.
Yes, thank everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm a little bit under the weather here in Los Angeles. So Venus Marroquin,
Yes.
thank you for sharing that with us. I've got a couple questions for our staff based on what you've shared with us. The first thing is, that you say you went to the dealers to talk about the vouchers. But my understanding is that the vouchers have to come from the air districts, or the state, and then you have to sort of go through that process first, and then you sort of bring that to the dealers. I want to clarify the mechanics of that and whether that's how it really works out. Maybe I got that wrong, and that somehow you go directly through the dealers for the program. So I want to clarify that with staff. The second question I have is, I think Venus Marroquin knows, if you have a 2008 truck that you're in, or engine, that truck can no longer be on the road at the end of this year.
Yes.
So what is Venus? This is a question again for staff, the second question. What is Venus Marroquin supposed to do in this situation? We have some flexibility in our truck and bus rule, I believe. Is she supposed to try to place an order and have a receipt for a truck that's going to be delivered in a couple of years, let's say, and that allows her to run her current truck? What is the vision and the direction that our staff and our agency would like Venus to go in this circumstance, given the fact that she can no longer run her truck in 6 months? So those are two questions that I think will help me understand a little bit more about Venus's situation.
I'm happy to field
questions.
the truck and bus part of it. This is Beth White. I oversaw that reg for almost 10 years or a little over 10 years. And I'm moving into the advanced clean fleets and on the division team for infrastructure for mobile sources right now. So I'm sort of transitioning out of truck and bus as we go into this new phase. And but I do know that there's a deadline at the end of the year, certainly the final deadline in the truck and bus reg for upgrades. And so we have always had a manufacturer delay option in the truck and bus reg. As long as you place the order by September 1, prior to the compliance deadline. So if your deadline is at the end of the year and you place the order for quote unquote immediate delivery, I'll do my air quotes here. And once we have that from you, and we see that you've ordered a very specific truck, and you've ordered it by September the 1st, and your deadline is at the end of the year, then we put the non-compliant vehicle starting January 1, 2023 into a manufacturer delay option. And we will work with you if due to the fact that you're scrapping that truck and purchasing a zero emission vehicle, which may have a slightly longer build time than we're used to with diesel, although diesel can take a while too. We've had that experience for sure. But we will work with you if that continues to go longer than expected kind of thing. So we're setting truckers up so that will automatically take care of that for you. And we have a lot of staff available to talk to you through that and submit the right paperwork to the trucker's email, which is trucrs@arb.ca.gov. And we're happy, like I said, to work with you on that. I'd also like to say to Venus, et cetera, and I absolutely agree, we need one solid point of contact at CARB. And then if Femi and Peter and I are all sitting in on that discussion, that's great because we're all coming at it from different angles. Peter and Femi are handling different incentive programs. I'm coming at it from the zero emission vehicle and the advanced clean fleets, the proposed advanced clean fleets reg angle, and that we plan on posting a list, obviously, for ZEVs that we consider unavailable. And so that fleet reps know that vehicle's on the list and they don't need to contact us and let us know, hey, this is completely unavailable. I am also still interested in something that is truly having a 3 to 4 year build time. So technically it's not unavailable, but that's a very long wait. And so we want to keep that transparent and see what the holdups are and the roadblocks and that type of thing. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Yeah,
About
thank you for that
question I had, Femi.
Yeah, and it's a great question. I want to also just add in on Beth's comment about the approach with the manufacturer delay extension. I want to also add that Moyer is recognizing that issue as well, and we're aligning with allowing funding availability with that extension. So as long as you guys are able to apply for that extension, you will also be eligible for Moyer funds still. So that's something that will be available as well. And Gideon, a great question earlier. I think the nuance there that you're drawing is for the applicant themselves. They are actually going to be dealing directly with the dealership. So that's one of the benefits of VIP is that dealership interaction and trying to make it extremely simple and not having to have the applicant themselves navigate the process of figuring out how it works with the dealership, how the dealership has to work with the air district and all that. They deal directly with the dealership. The dealership themselves then deals with the air district and understanding, what the voucher amount is, how to apply that to the
And we have a list
vehicle
of
and-
dealers that are familiar with that, and that's the list that Venus is looking at.
So each district should have the list.
that I went through. That's the list that I went through, and most of them say no, we can't help you. And some of them say, you know what, don't buy an electric truck because it's gonna take 4 years. You won't be able to afford the plugging in, blah blah blah. And I was like, we wanna buy something that we can, it'll be easier than, because that's the future. And me and my husband were like, we can buy an electric truck, we can buy a gas truck, then we have to go back to diesel because that's the only thing you can buy at this time. So you guys gotta have a meeting with your dealerships and not, they're telling us we can buy things when we are willing to go in there, trade old trucks and just, wait for the new truck and buy a truck. Maybe because we're Latinos, they think we don't know. I don't know. I felt that way. And they spoke to us in Spanish and or English, is broken because, but we felt a little bit like, oh, that we didn't know what we were saying. And I did call the air and I explained to them what I wanted to do. They guide me through the application that is online and I filled it out. And then that's why I went over there. So we are trying here as much as we can because we don't understand a lot what's going on. And when we get there, because I went with my husband and my friend went as well, they really just went like, no. I was like, we should just get a diesel truck then, it's easier. It's way easier than going through all this paperwork and all these things. I just wanted to let you guys know about that because we felt that because we're Latinos, they didn't really want to help us.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a great point, and one of the things we're trying to do, and it'll come up a little bit later in our presentation as well, is really try to not only amplify the program, but expand the outreach to all communities and to all folks that are interested. And I think part of that is, us and the districts and folks on the call hearing what you're going through and trying to make this
Femi, this is great conversation. And I think this has been extremely helpful. We do have a couple of others with their hands
Thank you so
raised.
much for your help. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Hey,
Thank you.
Venus,
I
we
will
really
email everybody.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much, ma'am.
you.
Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you, Venus, for your comment. I do have Ash up next from South Coast, AQMD, that actually wants to respond back. And I'll be unmuting you now, Ash.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. How do let's see, I'm trying to open the video part too. Is that available or not?
It should be, but if it's not working, we're having technical difficulties today. So you can go ahead and speak.
So, all right, great. Let's see here. Bear with me here. Oh, lower hand. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Ash Nikarvan. I'm with the South Coast AQMD. I actually have an official comment I want to make about several things, but before I do that, I want to address Venus's concern. One thing that I want to bring up, Venus, we've been having meetings with various dealership brands that carry the 4 major brands that we work with. And we're trying to get an understanding because there's been a lot of questions and confusions specifically about the manufacturer delay compliance extension and how that relates to what the manufacturers can do and provide vehicles to the dealerships. And the biggest concern right now is, depending on which brand you're pursuing, the dealership cannot get information about what their allocation is going to be for for 2023 yet. So what the allocation is basically saying what the factory, how many units the factory can commit to delivering to that specific dealership. And they don't have that information at this time. So the challenge for them is they can't, in good faith, accept an order from you right now if they can't commit to saying, look, this order will be fulfilled in 2023. So that's the challenge that the dealers are facing. And the problem is, this is not with every single brand, but I would say 3 out of the 4 major brands, they don't have a allocation that they know, they don't have a concrete allocation that they can commit to and say, look, we'll take the order, we'll take the deposit and honor that for next year. So therefore, it's not that they want to turn you away or not help you, but they can't commit to delivering that truck in by next year for you because they don't know that information from the factory level. And their bigger concern is what are they going to do if they don't have that allocation information by September 1st of this year, because that's the deadline that the purchase order needs to be, or the purchase agreement needs to be finalized and submitted. Now, I hope that makes some sense, but I would, since you're in Wilmington and that's in our air district, I'd be more than happy to discuss with you of who you spoke with and hopefully relay another dealership that is accepting orders. And depending on what brand you wish to pursue, I'd be more than happy to follow up with you and find someone for you that is accepting orders at this point and willing to move forward at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Ash, could you maybe put your appropriate email address in the chat so that Venus can follow up with you?
Absolutely.
Thank
I would be
you.
happy to do that. And then I had a formal comments. Is this a good time or would you like me to wait till later?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go
Ash.
ahead.
Is that okay? Okay. All right. Let me put my email real quick and then. All right. Okay. So good afternoon, Vice Chair Berg and board members Hurt and Krakoff. My name is Ashna Karvan. I'm a senior staff specialist at South Coast AQMD. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today and provide some input with respect to the on-road incentive programs, specifically the voucher incentive program or VIP. I've worked on the VIP program since its inception in 2009, and I've had the privilege of seeing how this vital program has evolved over the past 13 plus years and has helped numerous small fleets. South Coast AQMD appreciates Carbs staff's willingness to adapt the VIP program guidelines to help maximize the program benefits while maintaining its streamlined process. I would like to provide some perspectives on key benefits and challenges that we see for small fleets as we are accelerating the transition to zero-emission vehicles under the VIP program. Some of the key benefits that we've seen under the VIP over the years is that the attractive incentive amount are highly attractive, especially for this year. And with realistic VMT vehicle miles traveled, that requirements to qualify for the maximum funding. Also, VIP creates a level playing field by making the program exclusively for small fleets. So small businesses don't have to compete with the larger fleets to get qualified, and they don't have to worry about a big company ordering, 100 trucks under VIP and using up all the funds in a matter of days. Secondly, the streamlined process is very attractive to applicants because they're notified within 15 business days. There's minimal deliverables from the grantee after taking delivery of the replacement truck. And also these attractive incentive amounts are creating financing opportunities for credit challenged individuals by providing a significant down payment towards the replacement truck. In terms of current challenges under the VIP, we see several challenges that we'd like to provide some recommendations as well. Small fleets have serious reservations from being early adopters of new technologies because they feel like there's a lot of new variables for them to tackle simultaneously. They lack backup trucks in case of excessive downtime or waiting on replacement parts to be delivered for these new trucks. Additionally, they're uncomfortable with scrapping their diesel truck that they're familiar with and reluctant to go all in on new technology without a safety net. In terms of a tax ramification, the 1099 on the voucher amount is also a major fiscal barrier. South Coast recommends that the guidelines are revised to specify if there's a flexibility that can be afforded to Air District. The VIP funding also is quite limited, and South Coast AQMD annually supplements the VIP funds using match funds under the Carl Moyer Program. South Coast AQMD believes that allocating additional state reserve funds to the VIP program would be quite beneficial. Despite the generous incentive amounts, the added costs to these zero-emission trucks, such as sales tax, federal excise tax, and warranty that are incorporated into the price of a zero-emission truck are a serious financial hurdle for small fleets. South Coast AQMD would propose allowing air districts to include the full cost of the zero-emission vehicle when determining eligible voucher amounts rather than the base price. Lastly, charging. Many independent owner-operators do not have a place to charge their trucks, and South Coast AQMD had several recommendations. First is to provide assistance to match charger or charger incentives with ZE truck incentives, provide there's a need for reliable public charging access. And lastly, for those who are able to install the charger, create a one-stop shop with truck incentives programs that mirrors the program like the Energize program. I appreciate your time and willingness to listen to my comments, and I'd be happy to provide any further elaborations or clarifications at your convenience. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you,
Kitty,
Ash.
and from the South Coast. Thank you, Mr. Nipravon, for coming. Can you just tell us for VIP, the VIP slice of this, how much money does the South Coast get, for example, in 2022 for VIP?
Sure, Board Member Krakow, thank you for that question. AQMD, our South Coast Community doesn't directly get an allocation every year for VIP. We tap into our pot of funds that we have under Carl Moyer. So for example, in 2022, we have about 7 million of AB 923 funds that we took out of the Carl Moyer program and allocated it to the VIP program. Now, in previous years, like I believe it was 2020, the State Reserve Fund was allocated exclusively for the VIP, which really helped provide additional funds. And that's one of our recommendations, if that could be a routine option, which would help further provide additional funds to make the program more viable. And you know, we can, if we're funding one truck at $410,000 per applicant, that's going to get spent really quickly.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, Ash. Just out of curiosity, do you know how much funding South Coast gets for Moyer in total?
That's a good question. I don't have the number off the top of my head. My colleagues might, but I can get that for you if you like.
Okay,
Yeah, I
and
think
the
it's
district,
somewhere like, is it 70 to 100 or something like that? But that also includes off-road. But I don't
Right.
know.
True.
I don't know exactly.
Yeah,
and the district decides how much they want to allocate to VIP, correct?
yes, it's based on demand and performance of the program, but you know, it's also, you know,
They should go back and forth.
it's from Carl Moyer. So there's so many different categories under Carl Moyer and trying to give a even distribution amongst the categories. But yeah, ultimately it's our decision of how much is allocated. But again, there's demand on all programs, as you know. So it's, you know, it's quite a juggling act.
Right, and just really quickly, one of the things you mentioned was the sales tax issue, and I want to be very clear that when it comes to sales tax, particularly, or those types of taxes, those are not allowed to be included in Carl Moyer funding by statute. So that is not a programmatic decision or a policy call. That is a requirement that we have by law, that we cannot have that factor into the actual funding amount. So that's why when that comes up, particularly, we don't actually go that route for that. So just so that's clear, but definitely appreciate the comments. We definitely want to continue to make the program work best for all of us, for the agency, the district, and communities. So let's go ahead and you know, keep that as a talking, you know, continue to talk through those types of issues. But thank you for raising them.
Thank you so much.
And if I may, there are two comments in the chat, actually in response to Venus offering alternatives for looking at zero emission from Dusty Garland, and from Brittany Rudick on zero emission dealerships. So hopefully just calling that out for Venus to take a look at. We have two more commentators waiting in the queue. First is Margarito Rodriguez. I'm going to allow you to speak. You may unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Margarito. I represent two entities actually here. My full-time job is CFO at a hydrogen infrastructure provider for refueling. And my second role is a couple months ago, me and some family members who've been in the drayage industry for the past several decades kind of started our own thing. We're looking to go into operation soon. There's a few owner operators who will be replacing their vehicle or have the need to replace their vehicle. And I just wanted to piggyback off of just kind of the dealer interaction. You know, I've been helping them kind of research what the alternatives are. And I do have a comment to make as far as the dealers go. I would imagine that there are a lot of requirements for them to participate or be eligible to receive vouchers, whether it's through HVIP or the Moyer program. However, I think there's a lack of transparency from the dealers to the consumer. And what I mean by that is that it's very difficult to get any information unless you somehow have an inside foot, right? I'm fortunate that in my actual daytime job, I actually deal with OEMs in terms of trying to partner for infrastructure for hydrogen or for alternative fuels. So I was able to, shoot a few emails, and eventually I got to the right person just to find what the price of one of these vehicles is, right? And you can imagine when I'm advocating to some of my family members who are already really, I guess, suspicious about zero emissions transportation when they've been driving diesel for 20, 30 years. When they ask the question, how much is one of these vehicles? And I don't know right off the top of my head, it makes them even more skeptical. So, one suggestion I would have for the dealers, or at least that the state hold them accountable to somehow release this information, right? If I'm newish to the grant process, I'll go to the HVIP website. I have no idea who has what available at what point. I don't know how long the waiting time is. I don't know what the price of these vehicles are, right? I understand it's new technology. Maybe dealers don't want to show their hand. Maybe the OEMs don't want to show their hand on the pricing. But hey, this is new technology. The consumer is going to pick, right, what product ultimately is going to be successful, right? It's all about the consumer experience. So I do think the end user does have a leg down in this interaction with the OEMs or the dealers. It's just very hard to extract information, right? And our community, again, piggybacking off of what the lady said a couple comments before is, the Latino community, we tend to be impatient sometimes, right? I already have one of my uncles had a 2008. He just sold it. He was using it for about 5 years. Instead of waiting and trading it in just because he couldn't find info, I couldn't get to the bottom of it for him. He just sold it on the open market, right? And my comment to him was like, you just let go of $400,000, right? Regardless of how much you got for it. So I think at the end of the day that the end consumer is impacted a little bit more by this lack of transparency. And again, my suggestion would be that the state somehow find a way to make this a little bit more available to the end consumer, because ultimately we're the ones who are going to be purchasing these vehicles anyway, right? That is all.
Thank you, Margarito. That's an excellent comment, and it's well taken. We need to try to figure out how to increase transparency of the program. That's definitely part of what we're trying to do and trying to achieve. So, want to definitely look forward to working with our air district partners on how to do that, our dealership partners on how best to do that. I think you raise a great point. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you, Margarito. Next in the commentators, we have Karen Fairweather. I'm going to allow you to speak. You should be able to unmute your mic now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's Kevin Fairweather.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. The question I have is a real societal type of question and concern on battery electric technology. And a question I get asked very frequently, and I don't know how to answer them yet, is the fact that the consensus is batteries do not last as long as a diesel engine or any other type of liquid fuel type engine. And batteries cannot be rebuilt and reused like a typical diesel or liquid fuel type engine. That's the consensus. And so it leads to the next question of what does the state and the EPA, for that matter, have for a plan or an understanding to give to the general public of where batteries go when they're no longer usable, and how does that affect materially and chemically the ground as it affects groundwater and vegetation? What is the emission savings and long-term with the environment over going to battery electric versus what technologies have been historically used up to this point? What kind of answer can I give them on that?
Mr. Fairweather, this is Craig Siegel. Let me start on that one. This is an area of considerable interest across the California government, and we definitely haven't missed the challenge with both reducing the amount of materials needed in batteries and making sure they're recyclable. And this is the sort of thing that gets taken on in steps, of course, as we all learn together. But let me give you some for instances. As a starting point, I know Cal EPA, our parent agency, has put together a lithium ion car battery, and I'm sure this will move forward into trucks as well. Recycling group, which is helping set up a range of recommendations on use across the market. It's also the case that within our regulatory initiatives, we've been really focused initially in the light duty vehicle market, just because the volume there is so much greater, on ensuring recyclability and on durability. So in our current Advanced Clean Cars 2 proposal, for instance, where we're really heavily focused, we're ensuring that folks get clear indications of battery life, but also that warranty and durability keep getting extended. Certainly at least starting with levels that are internationally recommended and likely ramping up to even stronger regulatory signals. So we're, as a vehicle regulator, really focused on increasing the lives of batteries for all the reasons you've just mentioned. And we're also seeing growth in the private sector market. As this becomes a dominant technology, what I would expect, given the really predominant recyclability of these materials, is to see increasing proliferation here in both heavy and light duty spaces. And it's definitely an area where we want to learn more and keep pressing forward more. I think the last point that you raised was sort of overall emissions. And I guess what I just say is that given the ever cleaner grid, both nationally and especially in California, we know that these vehicles are always cleaner across their whole life cycle, as well as, just in the neighborhood. So I think your focus here, your broad thinking on, so how do we think of the whole picture, really appreciated. And it's also an area where we're both trying to bring regulations to bear and thinking about the larger market, where I think there are really strong incentives for a lot of folks to help solve that issue. So I appreciate you raising it.
And also, Craig, this is Sandy Berg. I think the research, I would not I'd keep an open mind on this, Kevin. From what I'm reading in the research, it is not necessarily true that these batteries don't have as long of life. And so the technology is improving tremendously. And for those of us that have been driving electric, certainly under light duty, have been really pleasantly surprised. I've had my car for 7 years now and have less than 10% battery degradation. And the other thing is that I'm really encouraged by the OEM's warranties. They're offering the same warranties as with their traditional vehicles. And so I think we really have got to get these trucks to market, and we really have to see what's actually happening on the road. And I think you'll see the research that is going on. It's looking pretty promising. I don't think we should just jump to the conclusion that that batteries are going to have a lot less useful life. And so I'm encouraged and can't wait to see what's actually going to happen.
If I could just jump in before we go to the next speaker, could we switch to slide 12 just really quickly? I was inspired by Venus and Margarito's, I believe it was, their comments about access to the incentives. And I'm wondering if folks that are listening right now in the chat can just inform us at which step has it been or appears to be most challenging for you specifically, so we can just understand others who may not speak up with their hand raised, but who have tried this, or their consultants who have tried this for others. What step in that access has been the most challenging? Okay, I'll pass it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
I see that Beverly Deschaux, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, is next to speak. I'm going to allow you to speak. You may unmute your mic.
Hi, this is Beverly Deschaux. I am with the Electric Vehicle Association, specifically the Central Coast chapter. I wanted to speak to the question that Kevin was asking about, and I think I have maybe a little bit more information. One is that Tesla is halting, or not halting, but waiting until they get some new battery technology secured that before they're releasing the new vehicles. They, of course, are the leaders, and they have said, and I don't know if this is actually with the heavy duty. Sorry, I'm sick, so I'm homesick, but I wanted to comment. I don't know if what I'm about to say is for the heavy duty vehicles, but certainly for the passenger vehicles, there will be a million miles on the batteries. That's what's coming. Already the passenger vehicles can have a 500,000 mile life. And as far as the motors have very few moving parts, so they have a very long life as well. And as far as the battery, what's done with them, all materials, that is all materials that make up the batteries, all of the minerals in them are reusable infinitely. They can be used over and over and over again with no degradation. They will have to be dismantled and reassembled. So that is the nascent industry right now. There are many new companies that are working on that, getting that to be, it's possible, but they want to get it to be more profitable for them. So that's where it stands now. Nothing is going into the landfill. The minerals are so valuable, there's no reason to throw them away. And as they reuse them, there's less and less mining that will take place because they will have the materials already available. So I don't think that people will need to worry about having something that then they're stuck with. And that's what's coming. And all of the industry will follow what Tesla does in terms of battery technology as well. So I just wanted to say that to you. I'm done.
Thank you, Beverly.
Well, it seems like we're at a good point here. We have answered most of the people that want to participate. And so can we kind of do a time check? How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, we are coming up on a break. If you wanted to take a quick 15-minute break in the coming slides. I will just note to Davina, to your question, it sounded like we're seeing in the chat step 1 from Jolene Fuentes stating how difficult to access incentives. So I don't want to lose that in the break. So maybe we can pick up either before or after to that response. But if you'd like, we can take a quick 15-minute break, or we can continue on to the word cloud and do the interactive exercise and then have the 15-minute break after. So
let's go ahead and start the word cloud and allow people to populate that while we take, let's say 10 minutes. So we're back in 15. Okay.
All right. And so with that, we really want to kick off this discussion and know where the incentives are really needed. And so as you heard from Vice Chair Berg, we'll take a quick 10-minute break and we'll return at 5:40. But I do encourage you, please participate in the word cloud. I'll quickly pass it over to Yadir, where he will walk you through the steps. Yadir?
Hi, this is Jadir again, Carb staff, and I will walk everyone through the second portion of the word cloud group exercise. Please give me a moment while I bring it up. So please go to www.menti.com for our callers. That is www.m as in Mike, E as in Echo, N as in November, T as in Tango, I as in India.com, and enter the passcode at the top of the page to participate. That is 95974153. Again, that's 95974153. Let me go ahead and open up the poll. You should be able to see the word cloud question on the presentation as well as your own screen. There are 5 fields to enter single words or phrases if you prefer. Please go ahead and fill in as few or as many fields as you would like before pressing the submit button. The word cloud will remain open until we return shortly. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and start a timer so that everyone gets a chance to participate.
So let's go ahead and allow people to populate that over the next 10 minutes or so. And then we'll give a 2-minute warning when we'll be back, and that will be no later than 5:45. Does that sound good to everybody?
Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Okay, I'm giving you a 2-minute warning. We'll be back in 2 minutes to do our next section, and that is program improvements to increase equity incentive opportunities. Really looking forward to that. So grab that soda, or it is 5:45, a little bit of appetizers, and join us, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, let's call us back to order, and Sandra, let's go.
All righty. Well, thank you all. We'll go ahead and transition over to the presentation. Okay, perfect. All right, as we continue, we are approaching this from a discussion process. And as we are trying to gather information, and the following are some thoughts we put together based on the feedback we received from our last meeting. Understanding that we need help from everyone on the call to better understand how these ideas actually work and figure out if they're beneficial and worth pursuing. Again, thank you for your participation in the word cloud. As part of this process, it's essential for us to support infrastructure projects where they are actually needed. With that, we would like to consider offering an infrastructure plus up option for small fleets. This would provide additional funding, or additional funding would be available for specialty projects located in the areas you just mentioned, with a specific focus on accessibility in disadvantaged communities. Our initial thoughts are to lean on the California Climate Investment Map, an interactive map that's already available for our applicants. This would provide a uniform approach on what communities are identified as a disadvantaged community and a low-income community. We've pasted the link in the chat for those of you not familiar with the tool. Simply select the link and then select priority population, and you can toggle between which population you would like to look, whether it be a disadvantaged community or a low-income community. In addition, we'd like to strengthen our partnership with CEC, SCE, SDGE, for example, offering additional incentive amounts with other agencies. For example, if Moyer VIP offered 70% of the project, the other agency would come in to collaborate on the investment, alleviating the burden for the applicant. Next, we're trying to figure out ways to create an alliance between large and small fleets in order to provide greater access to infrastructure, potentially putting together a network of infrastructure that allows large fleets and small fleets to know when and where they can charge. In looking at what ways our program can provide greater opportunities, or at least start the discussion, this proposal includes allowing large fleets limited opportunity to participate in VIP, with the stipulation that they must have publicly accessible infrastructure. VIP funding would be prioritized and reserved for small fleets, with 70% of Moyer VIP funding allocated for small fleets in the 1 to 3 category, 1 to 3 vehicles. Lastly, there would be an equity milestone ensuring that a minimum of 50% of projects are in a DAC or low-income community, which again, I'll get to in the coming slide, which we'll discuss in the coming slide. Again, these are just some of the initial thoughts based on the themes we heard in the last meeting, understanding that we need to figure out all the elements and need help from large fleets and small fleets to better understand what those elements actually look like. Are these something worth, is this something worth pursuing? At this moment, I'd like to take another opportunity for us to do a quick pause on what was just presented. Simply raise your hand and someone from CARB will unmute you. Again, remember to state your name and affiliation.
Hello, this is Cruz Minicata again, and I see one hand raised by Margarito Rodriguez. You should be able to unmute.
Yep, I'm unmuted.
Okay.
This is Margarito again, and I was just talking about a small drayage company started with a family with about 5 to 8 drivers. I think I've done the hard part as far as I can tell, which is to convince people to go BEV. I think the access the access to grants through the state is phenomenal, and I think the biggest challenge has been the infrastructure, right? I'd imagine we're one of many where we're going to struggle just to find parking for the few diesel trucks that we're going to have in the LA Harbor area, like anywhere respectable, let alone finding anywhere to install infrastructure. I've tried to rattle the tree, just kind of reaching out to other companies, going door to door, even knocking here in the LA Harbor area, and almost no one seems interested. I think anything that incentivizes people to just come together, regardless of size, right? Because I do think my experience is having talked to the few providers, it seems pricey, right? So I think finding a way, whether it's, some type of, state-funded project or pilot project where you can find a reasonable location to install charging for, say, small fleets or medium fleets, to just kind of get the technology out there and going. I do believe that the word of mouth with owner-operators will really get out there, right? 60% of the population of drayage drivers in the Port of LA and Port of Long Beach are owner-operators, right? And I do think just getting them out there and solving this infrastructure issue is, to me, it's paramount, right? And I think profit almost has to take a back seat from the infrastructure side, right? I understand the whole trucking as a service perspective. I know there's just companies doing great things near the port. They've got their own model, but not everyone can afford that, right? Even with the grants that are out there, the fixed cost is just way too high, right? So I do think if there was a way to come together where whether it was some type of city land, some type of special exemption for zoning, right? Because even if you do find somewhere or someone that's willing to lease out a 10-year lot to you, sometimes the zoning becomes an issue, right? And I already ran into that. I got really excited with one place where, I thought was a really good fit. Then zoning became a huge issue. I had to let that go. So I think there has to be creative ways to solve for this and just make it accessible, right? Whether it's through partnerships or whether it's through some type of pilot program that the state can help solve. There's already so much in funds that's being thrown out there. I think if it just kind of zoned it in, it would really, really help. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment, Margarito. We have another comment from LaDonna Williams, and I have allowed you to unmute your mic.
Yes, hello, LaDonna Williams with All Positives Possible. So I was hoping that we see the word equity thrown around, or I shouldn't say thrown around. We see the word equity listed in, throughout the documents. And I would really like to hear, and it doesn't have to be very extensive, but I really would like to hear the agency's definition of what equity actually means. We see equity milestones, we see, equity in relations to the disadvantaged communities, which are all good things, of course. But I really don't have a clear picture of the equity lens from the agency. And I also, want to add in since the pilot projects and most of the focus on these programs have pretty much been down south, LA area, those areas, how do you view beginning to processes to begin to close those gaps and actually reach particularly the Native Black American populations that still continue to be the lowest numbers? I saw some numbers recently. They're still sticking and claiming it's 5.5%. We dispute those numbers. We know that it's more in the 2% area. We've seen those numbers as well. But just in our communities, and especially when it comes to the trucking, I think the other day there was a Black woman that mentioned, not being supported through her trucking business or trying to get her trucking business off the ground. So I just want to really get a definition from you all of what equity means through the CARB lens. Thank you.
Hi, LaDonna. Thank you. That's an excellent question. And I think, we are trying to figure out the best ways to address equity as well, and trying to define it in a sense and provide, greater access. So there's a couple of ways to really define equity. But really it's trying to meet folks where they're at and provide greater opportunities for those with less resources or have less opportunities or less resources for a multitude of reasons. So really trying to make sure that we provide funding amounts that are greater, provide access to these programs that are a little bit easier, just provide, in a sense, meet where folks at, so we can maybe balance some of the factors that we know are at issue and are preventing some folks from being able to access the program in a sense, or even being aware of the program. So definitely want to continue to work with folks like yourself and folks that are engaged at the environmental justice level and really understanding what the best approaches are, because I agree we need to figure out ways to get more participation from our Black communities, from our Black business owners, our small business owners, folks that may be having greater need but don't have the access or aren't even aware of the program. So really want to understand what are these best ways to outreach to these folks. And I think that's actually part of our presentation and our slide issue coming up, is really understanding and getting help from you guys. Like how do we do this better? Because we have our ways that we, in a sense, know how to do now, but really want to understand how to evolve that type of outreach so it's better, so it's more equitable, so it reaches the communities that it needs to. So, and thank you for joining the call. I know you guys have a busy schedule, and we ask a lot of our EJ communities and our representatives to really help us understand. So appreciate your patience in helping us with that, but definitely want to do better at that.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add too, and this is not a slight on the faith community, but I also noticed more recently there's been a real push to contact the churches when we've asked the question, how to really get these resources down to the folks. And so there's been a push, because I've been on, some calls with other folks, and they've mentioned they've increased, outreach, to the churches. However, I just want folks to recognize that we all don't worship the same, and I think that goes without saying, but they miss quite a few folks too, just assuming that, the churches is one of the main ways to reach our communities. And it's one of many ways, but they should not be focusing so much on that too, assuming that it is getting to us, because we've been hearing more and more that, the churches, including the churches. No, you need to come to where people are, the small community-based frontline groups. We know where these folks hang out, we know where they are, and we have, those relationships to be able to, get them to the table. But thank you, I appreciate that, and definitely we'll stay connected.
Yeah, thank you, LaDonna. I'm tempted to even, prompt you some more on some of what you're talking about, because it's such useful information, and I'm so curious and interested how to do that outreach, because agreed, there are a lot of creative ways we really need to explore that that would provide greater opportunity to folks that aren't necessarily in these same channels that we look at now. So want to learn a lot more how to do that, and definitely, you know, I will take you up on that offer to talk again at another point.
And LaDonna, this is Sandy Berg. I also want to echo, thank you so much. I think your questions, the first three that you asked, are the ones that myself and my fellow board members, we are asking those very same questions. So thank you for verbalizing that. I think we have to have a clearer and succinct definition that we are saying the same way. So we know how to start asking how to measure it and are we being successful. And the other thing that really I'm encouraged, love to do some listening sessions actually in the community, and so that we can come to you and speak with people that are really trying to access these programs. So thanks for being part today.
And I'll just add, you know, we're looking at it through making sure we expand the applicants who actually apply, the people who receive the incentives, and then the location in which those incentives are deployed to. And how it's really important for our partnership with you is you're an organization that's with the EJ community. You are EJ. And so how can we bring equity to that space through the knowledge that you have and the relationships that you have already created, and getting more monies out to folks that are diverse.
So thanks, Davina. I think we'll be
Uh-oh, did she go on?
I think we lost you, Vice Chair Berg.
Oh, I said, thank you so much for calling, LaDonna. We'll be reaching out.
Okay, and I just wanted to add one last thing too. You know, with these issues, they you know, they say we're so passionate about this, which we are, but we also understand, you know, we're not going to get it right, and there's going to be mistakes made along the way. And I get it. And for us, it's an urgency because people need to be able to pay their bills and feed their kids and what have you. But I do want to say this with all sincerity too, as much as I get on you agencies and you rightfully deserve it, you know, when there's a chance to compliment you on issues, I want to do that equally. And coming from a conference, I actually wasn't physically there because of COVID and the rise in COVID, and I think it just ended today, but it was the electrification. But we were fortunately able to have some others because we have relationships with other states on these issues, realizing California is in the forefront. And I can say that you all are more responsive to disadvantaged communities than some of these other folks. When we bring this up, they are pissed off. And I don't mean to use, you know, that kind of language, but they hate the fact that we challenge them on the lack of, you know, fairness and inclusion and equities. They really have an attitude, whereas you guys are trying to rise to the occasion. So I really do want to compliment those efforts and you guys listening and even reaching out. There were, you know, if I register late or one of our folks register late who's been part of it, you guys are making sure that we know what's going on. And I didn't know when it was going to end, so I didn't think I was going to be able to make this meeting, but I have, and just really appreciate the response we're getting. Thank you.
Thank you, LaDonna. Elizabeth, did you have something to say?
Yes, I will make it really quickly. I just wanted to add on to Vice Chair Berg and Board Member Hurd and Femi's comments, and certainly second that it's really important that we look at this from every vantage point that we can think of, and that's why it's helpful to have these meetings so that we understand vantage points that maybe we're not used to looking through that lens kind of thing. But I will add on really quickly that we recently drafted a heat map based on the large entity reporting data. We're looking at that with an overlay of the disadvantaged communities. And that's been really helpful, even just in its draft phase already. to figure out, what the best layout is to really understand what we're talking about and what the needs are, the energy needs are, and how we're going to tackle that. So we're working on it.
Thank you, Beth. We have two more commentators. Jason Groves, I see your hand is raised. You may unmute your mic.
Thank you. Jason Groves here with Southern California Edison. And I heard someone comment a little bit earlier about the utility programs available for infrastructure. And so I just thought I would chime in with a little more information. The program that Edison has is called Charge Ready Transport. And we can potentially cover a very large portion of infrastructure that someone might need if they were adopting a medium or heavy duty electric vehicle. So I highly encourage anyone out there that's in Edison service territory or within the other two investor-owned utilities in California to reach out. And we might be able to cover the majority of the upgrades you would need if you plan to electrify these larger vehicles. I would very much encourage you to check out our website, sce.com/CRT, and we would be very happy to look at your project and see what we can do to help get infrastructure in the ground for you.
Hey, Jason, if you could put that in the chat, that'd be great, the website link.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I have another commentator, Christopher Velasco. I've allowed you to speak. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Hi, my name is Christopher Velasco. I am a AB 617 committee member down here in Imperial County. Appreciate the work you guys are doing and the push towards equity. That being said, I do invite you to present to the AB 617 committee. I believe our next meeting is going to be sometime in mid to late July. Imperial County is at the precipice of a big change. A lot of the warehousing and sort of facilities that you find in common in Otay Mesa, a lot of those people are rethinking their location there because it's increasingly becoming expensive. Amazon just bought out a lot of the remaining parcels. And so we're seeing a shift down here where there's a huge interest in cross-border and general trucking in general. I am interested in these topics. That's why I know about this meeting. So I think outreach, especially down here, because we do have very poor air quality. We're a PM 2.5 non-attainment area. So if you guys are wanting to come down here, I'd be more than happy to help you facilitate that, preferably bilingual, because we do have a large Spanish-speaking community here. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you for that comment, Chris. And we'll work with the community and see if we can find some time to really come out there and really engage you guys and just give a better understanding of what's available, because we absolutely want our Imperial community to be involved and be aware of what's available as well. So I know I think we generally work with our OCAP folks and and that works with Luis Almeida and the CCB group, and which I think is one of the leaders in your community there. So we'll be in touch and we'll figure out how to get on you guys' calendar. Thanks for the comment.
Thank you.
We have one more commentator that's raised their hand, Minda Rebecca. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Hello, I'm Minda Rebecca. I'm calling in from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. I'm really excited that you're thinking about infrastructure, and the Plus Up idea is a really interesting one. And we look forward to hearing more about that. Anything we can do to support small fleets and disadvantaged communities and low-income communities is going to be a good thing. So I think it's a great thing that you're thinking about this. The second thing listed, creating alliances between fleets, that's also a really interesting idea. I think a concern that might come up is the administrative burden overseeing something like that regarding reporting, overseeing, and ensuring that alliances are being the obligations are being met as laid out. So I think that's the sort of thing that is really interesting and potentially exciting, but probably needs some thought in terms of what it would actually look like in terms of administering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a really quick comment, sorry, before you move on. Thank you for that comment, Minda, and definitely agree and really want to understand some of the nuances that would go into creating this type of opportunity, right? Because we want it to be a real opportunity, not merely something that someone has as a checkbox and doesn't necessarily honor in the way you're talking about. How do we confirm that? How do we, in a sense, enforce that? I think I saw a comment earlier about trying to how to enforce it. So a lot of elements go into that, but I think where we want to start is there really interest in doing this? Understanding that right now VIP is specific to small fleets. It is exclusive to small fleets. So do we open up an opportunity, allowing larger fleets into this program in a sense, in a limited way, but ensuring that participation yields benefits for the small fleets, right? Because that's the main goal here, is ensuring that we are working together to figure out how to approach this infrastructure situation, and we have to do so in a collaborative way. Really, it's not necessarily just small fleets have to figure out and just large fleets have to figure out. We all have to figure it out. So how do we work together to do that? And if there's a way to do it, a way to have our program encourage that type of participation, we're interested in looking at it. And maybe it's not this particular way, but maybe we continue to think about, okay, how do we do this in a, maybe it's a holistic way, maybe it's an incremental way, what have you, but how do we approach this in a way that actually does yield this benefit and yield this collaboration that we think can occur? So again, thank you for your comment. I just wanted to provide some context into what we're thinking here, but this is still in the oven. This one we're still trying to figure it out, but wanted to at least see what folks thought about it.
Thank you, Femi. We do have one additional commentator that raised her, two actually. Adam Browning. Let me put you on mute. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Hey, thank you. Adam Browning for Mobility here, company that provides electric vehicle truck as a service. And to that point around creating alliances between fleets, I do think one of the bottlenecks here is going to be appropriately sited land with access to power. And in this instance, I think as one commenter talked about earlier, the ability, there's going to be limited ability to site charging installations, for example. And if Carl Moyer were providing additional funds, I do think that there is the possibility for having kind of anchor tenants that establish these charging depots that then also pack on quite a bit of extra charging capacity that could be create a type of alliance that you've laid out here as well. So I just want to put a pin that I think you're onto something with this idea, and that could definitely be pursued. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I see that Tim O'Neill has also raised his hand. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Cruz. Appreciate that. Yeah, this is Tim O'Neill with PG&E. I've placed a couple links of the EV fleet program in the chat. And so if I know that I'm hearing a lot of information about down south in Los Angeles, I know Margarito talking about that. I just know that, yes, we are the third utility that has these state programs to assist customers with installing charging infrastructure when they're putting into service medium and heavy duty fleet vehicles. In fact, to touch on Margarito's point, there's actually an all-electric truck stop that's being installed in Bakersfield through our program, and there's looking at a few others of those. PG&E also has another program called DC Fast Charge, where we're installing DC fast chargers throughout main corridors in northern central California. So that will allow also for more spot charging for those vehicles. I know it doesn't help you in LA when you're talking about you don't have a place to park and don't have a place to charge, that sort of thing, which doesn't fit that necessarily. But we've got a lot of customers that are looking at installing charging stations in their yards where their vehicles are housed. And so I do appreciate that question that the CARB team put out to everybody before our break. Very, very relevant. And one more to for LaDonna, yes, our program, we actually do offer additional incentives and rebates for customers that are inside disadvantaged communities for installing their charging infrastructure. So it's there. There's some resources and some links. I also left my email address, so you can email me if you're in PG&E's service territory and you are trying to determine if fleet electrification is good for you. Get a hold of us and we'll be happy to walk you through what options you have and some of the tools that are out there to help you determine if it's right and what kind of financial assistance you can get, not only through PG&E, but the other program agencies out there.
Thank you, Tim. I believe that's all of the commentators, but I do see that LaDonna still has her hand raised, and Jason as well.
Okay, I was almost going to say no, my hand didn't mean to be raised, but I did miss because it was bleeping out the last person that just spoke.
Oh, okay. Tim, are you able to unmute and just repeat your message to LaDonna?
Oh, no, I
Sure.
heard it. I just didn't see,
yeah.
I couldn't see his name.
Oh.
I kind of heard the very end of it. I heard PG&E. Was it?
Yep, Tim O'Neill with PG&E. You can email me at letters TKO, then the number 2, TKO2 at pge.com. Be happy to answer your questions on what you might have.
Oh, okay. And I look, it's something in the chat as well, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I put 2 links in there, one for the program, and then there's also a tool in there that called the Fleet Savings Calculator tool that's really valuable if you're trying to determine costs of going to electric, total cost of ownership, fuel savings calculators, that sort of thing. It's a really, really, really excellent tool.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all the commentators at this moment.
Perfect. Thank you, Cruz.
Remind me tonight in an hour to put ice in the freezer.
Oh, someone's give you. Perfect. And with that, we can go to the next slide. So great conversation, and this is extremely helpful and leads us right into the environmental justice, some of the changes we're talking here. Another key theme we heard during our last IPAG discussion was how do we better support environmental justice communities? Should we offer funding, for example, a plus-up option within VIP, removing the funding cap for all zero-emission trucks located in these communities, as well as increasing the maximum funding percentage for small fleets with an additional 15% for small fleets that are 3 and less and 10% for fleets between 4 and 10, which would mean an additional 90 to 95% for small fleets. For some background, what currently exists, according to statute, is a minimum 50% of Moyer funds for districts with a population of over 1 million must be used towards environmental justice communities. This definition applies to the Moyer program as a whole, which includes on-road as well as off-road infrastructure, locomotives, marine, etc. BIP currently doesn't have its own environmental justice requirement. As such, air districts are not required to consider environmental justice in their project selection. There is no set definition or metric for the air districts to measure outcome. Here is an opportunity within the program where synergy can occur across the agencies, and we can strengthen environmental justice reporting in VIP. We believe we can identify and support these projects with incentives. First, we need to identify these projects, and our initial thoughts are to lean on the CCI investment map that we provided in the chat a little bit earlier. Again, you can click on that link, click priority populations, and you can see within California where DAC and low-income communities are located at. And with that, we'd like to pause again and get some feedback. Take a quick minute from what we just shared right here. And again, just raise your hand and Carb can unmute you, and please state your name and affiliation.
Hello, this is Cruz Minicata again. I see one hand raised. LaDonna Williams. Let me unmute. You should be able to unmute.
No, I was gonna say, I keep trying to put my hand down and it's not going down, so I apologize. It's not still up, or
Oh,
not
no
trying to
worries.
be.
No worries. Okay, I do see one more commentator that's raised their hand. Jolene Fuentes, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, this is Jolene Fuentes, and I work with Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. We're experiencing a lot of range anxiety as we're waiting for technology to become available for our medium and heavy duty Class 8 trucks. As we work in remote areas and often have our equipment out in the field for weeks at a time without even, typically bringing them back to our plants or areas that are more populated where we could have an opportunity to charge. So we're hoping that there might be other options emerging where we can recharge in the field, although we haven't really seen anything promising so far. We have looked into the Charge to Ready program, and I believe it was going to be about 3 to 5 years to build that infrastructure to meet our demands at our facilities. And we're having trouble, I guess, aligning our budgets because we're on a biennial cycle, aligning those with some of the program opportunities that we might be eligible for, and making sure that the infrastructure is available when those vehicles are available to us and come online.
Hi, Jolene. This is Sandy Berg. Thank you so much for your comment. I'm going to ask if we can parking lot this, not because it isn't really important, and several of your colleagues around the state have been contacting various board members along with working with staff on this very issue. And I'd like to return it back to our topic on environmental justice. But please feel free to contact myself. I know Gideon Krakow and Davina Hurt is working on this along with staff, and we'll circle back with you. Will that be okay?
Yes, and I apologize for being off topic. I just had an opportunity to raise my hand at the moment.
Yeah, it's no problem. I wanted to recognize you, and I appreciate the issue. And so let's circle around. And
yeah, we've heard from the Met and the other utilities, and we're aware of these issues in the public fleet part of our advanced clean fleet rule. Yes.
Yeah, so we'll continue to work with you.
Okay, I do not see any commentators raising their hands at this time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I, sorry, before we move on, I want to kind of just a little bit reiterate a little bit of what Sandra is highlighting here in this proposal, because I think it's really important. I really want to make sure that everybody understands what our intent here is, and it's understanding that we are trying to provide greater opportunities here in disadvantaged and low-income communities, recognizing that those communities could use greater support to access the technologies we're talking about, but also really want to understand where is the program being most effective? Where does it need to be the most effective? And getting this type of information as part of our reporting requirement really helps us provide more information on what's going on, where are funds being used, where might they need to be used more, just really highlighting potentially where there may be other gaps that we aren't aware of, because this isn't necessarily a metric that we consistently track. But I also want to really highlight that there are some districts that do already do this, and I would say, not to shame any districts, but I really want to say that, districts like the Bay Area Air Quality Management District is really one that does provide this type of information. It is, a field that is available now. So, but really it's not required to provide it. So really now it's like, let's actually make this required so we can have consistent information on that. And then we can, not only know for ourselves, but be transparent and let you folks know, hey, this is where this is happening. This is what we're doing. And this is where and how it's being the most effective. And that in itself informs how we can provide greater outreach, because we'll know where their gaps may be or may not be. So again, really want to provide that context so folks know, like, this is why we're doing this, and really trying to understand what's going on in the program, understand how we can improve this access, improve our program. So, I know there's not a lot of comments yet, but really, if folks have any other comments on this, and again, and want to think it through, obviously we'll have contact information and available as well. But just wanted to, I didn't want to move on so quickly. I wanted to, really kind of dive in a little bit more, so you folks get a feel for what we're thinking here.
Hi, Femi. We have two commentators. Tyler Harris, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, Tyler Harris with Ventura County Air Pollution Control District. I've been running the major incentive programs there for about 5 or 6 years now. And when I first took over, my predecessor said, because we weren't we didn't meet the requirement of being over 1 million people, to just ignore that checkbox on the report or the Carl system that said whether it was environmental justice. And I keep looking at it, and I thought, well, maybe I should just be putting this information in anyway, but it wasn't really clear to me what areas qualified. So I think if you move to using the mapping system that we use for the CAP incentive programs and the farmer program, where you just enter the GPS coordinates of the project, and then it populates that for you. I think that's very effective, and it's worked really well in the CAP part of the data entry in the Carl database. So just, it would make it easy for everybody. If you just require that for every project, then you would have the data, and it wouldn't be an issue of whether you're in a larger district with the requirement in the statute or not.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you for that comment. Definitely agree. I think this will be to benefit us, and provide maybe some greater definition and greater direction on how to approach this. So thank you for that comment, Tyler.
Sure. Thanks, Benny.
We have another commentator, Margarita Rodriguez. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, yes. I think in terms of feedback, I'll ask to where the program is working and just opportunities that I would see for improvement. I think the advocacy side needs a lot of work. I'd be hard pressed. I've got a network of about like 30 to 45 owner operators who may be aware of the program, but they don't know the details, right? And I think a lot of it just comes down to potential, more than one source of information. Sometimes, the carriers that they contract with or that they work for, they look to them to get updates or find out what new regulations are coming into play or what's available. And by advocacy, I'm talking about boots on the ground, right? It's really having, like, whether it's a town hall meeting, and taking it by fleet, depending on size, things like that. And I know a few weeks ago there was that whole ride and show in Fontana, right? I think you need to have a lot more of those for owner operators in, whatever the areas of interest are, right? And obviously for us, it's here in Los Angeles and Long Beach. But, I think the incentives are great. I think that part is working fantastic, right? If you're getting a $400,000 voucher for a covering like 90% of a truck cost, that's amazing. Those numbers speak for themselves. But having someone take that leap of faith who is already skeptical about the technology makes it really hard without having tried it before, right? And I know there's some companies who, like TTSI, right? They've had they've had some pilot programs. They had 3 drivers try out these BVs. I just think that needs to be made more widely available, right? And just kind of having grown up around the father that was owner operator, several uncles, several cousins, just hearing them talk. I know there's a lot of skepticism out there, and it's almost like, the whole Missouri state stuff, right? The show me, right? They want to see, and they need to have a trusted source of information for this. So again, boots on the ground in terms of advocacy, I think will go a really long way.
Thank you, Margarita. We have, Tyler, do you have an additional comment?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to follow up on what I had said, but I don't think it's appropriate to put requirements in like the Moyer funding, especially Moyer, for how much percentage goes to environmental justice communities in the smaller districts, because many of them either don't have any disadvantaged community, or they're, you know, it's a very limited opportunity for them. I think the data collection is definitely worthwhile, but imposing new requirements on the smaller districts is probably not appropriate. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you for your comment. That should be all the commentators right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. This is extremely helpful for us. What we are trying to understand as part of this process is how can we better support you accessing these funds? And we heard a lot of ideas today, which is great. Listed here are the participating VIP air districts. As we mentioned, Bay Area, North Coast, San Diego, South Coast, San Joaquin Valley, and Siskiyou. Should we consider expanding the VIP network, encouraging these participating air districts to implement VIP on behalf of other non-participating air districts, therefore possibly expanding to a statewide model versus a voluntary participation model? Another topic we heard during our last conversation was aligning VIP with some of the recent changes, recent on-road changes through Moyer, right? Updating such as the engine model year eligibility. Would that be helpful? And lastly, how can we provide greater accessibility to resources? Are there ways that we can strengthen our outreach efforts? We heard quite a few examples today for small fleets and businesses statewide. Lastly, another prevailing theme we heard was the need to amplify funding opportunities such that small fleets are aware of where and how they can receive aid as they transition to zero-emission technology. Currently, there are some tools available that we would like to maximize their potential. First, we would like to continue to prioritize inquiries that come into our IPAG 2022 at arb.ca.gov inbox. We encourage everyone to continue to use this tool, not only for clarifying questions or concerns, but to help guide the process and provide critical feedback and or data we desperately need. Next, we do have the On-Road grant calculator available to the public. By putting in a few parameters, you can get a quick estimate of how much you may be eligible through the Moyer program. In addition, this tool is under further development to provide even more flexibility. Next, we would like to provide a map of publicly accessible infrastructure at the time of application, so you can get a better sense of accessibility and possibly alleviating some of those initial concerns with transitioning to ZEV. As part of this process, we'd like to offer public listening sessions for participating air districts, the dealerships, the manufacturers, dismantlers, to hear the small fleet and community perspective, as well as from minority-owned businesses and associations, ensuring that we hear their concerns and provide an intentional response. Progress can only come with listening and hearing issues from those that are affected every day. I also like to mention SB 372 staff are working on many other efforts to support the transition to using zero-emission vehicles. And recently, the legislature passed Senate Bill 372, also known as SB 372, which directs CARB to develop supporting programs in this effort to assist fleets as they adopt zero-emission technology. The bill instructs CARB to prioritize underserved communities when creating assistance programs and during the public engagement process in order to get feedback on what fleets need to successfully make the transition to cleaner zero-emission technologies for the medium and heavy-duty trucks. The goal is to improve upon the existing financial support, such as funding programs, as well as the non-financial support, such as technical assistance and capacity building. They also hope to identify any gaps in these support systems and to fill them in as needed to create a comprehensive pathway for fleets to purchase zero-emission trucks. This means working with as many stakeholders as possible. It also means collaborating with other partner agencies and organizations who are working towards this goal. For folks that would like to participate in this effort, they can email the team at movingcalifornia@arb.ca.gov. Or keep an eye out for communication from CARB. They do plan to hold a listening session on zero-emission trucks that will take place in the evening of July 28th. And we have pasted the link. We'll paste the link in the chat now for you to be able to register at your convenience. And with that, we'll go to the next slide. And as we heard a lot of feedback today, we'd like to take a quick poll to identify which of the ideas would be most helpful, or are there other ideas that we mentioned that we didn't hear today? So with that, we'll initiate a quick poll. We can go ahead and get that started.
And then Sandra, when we get the result of this poll, I'm sorry, this is Sandy speaking. When we get the result from this poll, let's also put up the last word cloud, which was where would you most likely want to charge? And so we could show the results from both.
Perfect. All righty. Do we have that word cloud ready? All right, so we'll go ahead and start. If we can, we'll work on the word cloud or the poll for now. We'll transition to the word cloud if possible. So again, where do you park your truck for an extended time, more than 4 hours? And here's the results on the screen.
So parking lot, of course, it would be the most prevalent, but it'd be interesting to know if it's public or private, or if it is a truck depot type, because that's where we need to put the charging to start with. Oh, but it does say truck stop. That was very popular. In the yard, I would assume in the yard would meet a private yard. But interesting personal property, remote locations, warehouses. So again, you can see the challenge of when we're looking at a transformation from one fueling source to another. And so this is a great word cloud that just resonates why there are the challenges we have.
Perfect. Thank you.
And along with that brings opportunities.
You know, and one thing, you know, and thank you for noting that, Sandy, because I think that's an excellent point. And one thing I'm also kind of noticing from this is it seems like kind of a also communal charging situations. It kind of seems like, so where folks can not necessarily just the one owner, maybe it's where folks can all charge for like publicly accessible charging that could be made available at, you know, whether it be at depots or truck stops. So definitely in parking lots. So definitely trying to figure out, you know, what are the best scenarios that we can provide and maybe prioritize when we try to look at these charging scenarios. So thank you everyone that participated in this. It's great information.
You know, Femi, you just really struck a aha moment for me when you said communal. My business is in Boyle Heights in Los Angeles, and we are in an industrial area. I don't think each one of our businesses needs a high-powered truck charging. I think it would be interesting to contact my neighbors and see what type of communal charging we could come up with that would service the neighborhood. And then along with it, we could put up some light duty charging to service our neighbors around us. So I do think this charging would be interesting to think outside the box, just not, oh, I have a property, I have a company, I have 8 trucks. How am I going to take care of just mine?
You know what I start to think about when you speak that way is community districts, that different zoning groups that where people can put those monies together and create something that the community can all use at once.
Yeah.
And they tax themselves, and I did say the T word, but they do say that there's a need, and if we join our monies together, we can create something that everybody can share.
It is an interesting idea. Thanks, Femi.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think, I mean, I think we're learning how charging is going to really be, practically done. And really, I think, like you're mentioning, I don't know that putting a lot of infrastructure in place is going to be the best way to serve some of the folks, particularly our smaller fleets that may not particularly own that piece of land, and may park or domicile their trucks in a certain area or with a certain company, a certain yard, and really want to reach out to them as well. It's like, hey, you are a yard that services maybe a number of fleets, small fleets, and are you interested in having this infrastructure in place that you can actually help these folks have a place to charge that they know is available to them, and provides that access. So yeah, just definitely want to continue to think through what might be the best ways to charge and ways to approach this transition in general, because I think a lot of our thinking is going into that, how to really understand all of the nuances of this change and this transition to a new technology, this behavioral shift that accompanies that. How do we understand what needs to be done, what needs to be available to do that? So this type of information helps for all of us. So thank you for all the folks that participated.
We do have one commentator, Kevin Fairweather. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. Nuance of change is a great phrase that Femi just used. In my experience in working with some organizations and operations that are looking at converting or evolving to electric, including infrastructure, is there are some nuances that are peripheral to just the conversion to electric. Many of them, instead of, for example, just parking their trucks inside their property, now it's a kind of a logistical change to their facilities where they may have to now park trucks inside of a building or closer to a building. And so there's more costs that go into a change for an organization than just the conversion to electric equipment and the infrastructure. And one thing I do believe I've noticed between a voucher program and a contract program is the timing in which the applicant or the grantee receives their incentive funds themselves. And that can have a big impact on their decision of how to move forward in changing to electric if there are other peripheral costs that are going to affect their organization. I believe I've seen an invoice when it came with a core voucher in an off-road program where I think the dealer got reimbursed, if you will, from CARB for the voucher amount of the transaction, and it showed up to the organization as a discount line item on their invoice. And so that organization was able to immediately recognize the financial benefit of the incentive. Whereas on a contract program like Carl Moyer, they put up all their money up front and have to go through a lengthy process of verification that everything has been installed and is operational with submitting paperwork. And then after management review and approval from the air districts, then a check is cut to the grantee themselves. And that takes a lot of estimated time to cash from the organization. That's a lot of them having to cover the costs when they may be looking at other peripheral expenses as well. So I guess to summarize that, it'd be better if all programs had a way to give the actual incentives more earlier in the process than so late in the process. That could help with an organization's decision to transition to zero emission faster. That's it.
Thanks, Kevin. You great comment. You make a great point. Oh, sorry, did you want to chime in?
Yeah,
on
maybe
that?
you can respond, Femi. So just for clarity, some of the programs are upfront, others are reimbursements. Is that what the comments are saying?
Yes. and he's drawing a distinction between the Moyer contract route, which is a reimbursement program. So he's right. You have to, the applicant puts the money in up front, the air district works out what the actual amount of available, what funding amount is available to that project, and then cuts the check back to the applicant after the project is completed. With the voucher route, what we're talking about with VIP, that is that discounted provided upfront to the cost itself. So it is a faster route of providing that relief in a sense from that higher amount upfront. So that's a distinction that I'm sorry that wasn't so clear.
HFIP does it that way too, upfront?
I believe HFIP is similar in that way. But yeah, that was the only comment I was going to make, Kevin, is you're highlighting exactly what we're talking about when we talk about VIP as really a way to access the program a little bit easier, particularly for smaller fleets. Provide that funding availability up front and give folks actually even an opportunity to understand what the amount that they're eligible for quicker is as well. And really hopefully that in itself also influences folks, seeing that lower amount with the discounted amount from the VIP voucher does help folks move forward in transitioning to zero emission vehicles. So you raise a great point, and I think that's exactly what we're trying to highlight when we talk about why we think VIP is such a strong program supported by so many districts, and really I'm trying to figure out if there's ways we can get maybe more involvement, more statewide involvement. We provided the list of districts that are currently doing it. Maybe there are ways for other districts to also be involved and provide a VIP program themselves, but need to understand what are the criteria for doing so. How do you get a program like that started? Me and my staff are definitely available and trying to help other districts understand how to do that as well. So definitely want to make the process a little bit easier however we can. And I see we have our poll results up. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know, Sandra, does that show up on your screen?
Yeah, definitely here. So thank you guys for all participating in the poll. Again, we wanted to hear, there were a lot of ideas presented today, but which of these would be the most helpful? And I see we've got all of the above, which is also a great answer. I would like everything, all of the above listed here today. So that is great. There was a fifth option, and I'd love to just ask the group, are there any options outside of what's listed here that we should be looking into, or that you would like to share with the group today? Kind of think of there being a 7 or 6 option here for other. And I'd like to just open it up if anyone would like to share.
I don't see any hands raised at this time. This is Cruz Municata, but there is a comment in the chat from Leila Rao, and I'll just read it out for everyone. Carbs should also consider revamping the EVSE standards regulation to facilitate communal infrastructure for heavy-duty battery electric vehicles. The current regulation is completely light-duty focused and may in fact hinder this type of innovative solution.
I'm sorry, which regulation is that?
Gideon, that's a regulation involving payment requirements for light-duty EVs. It's not generally operative or focused on the heavy duty space, but we'll certainly take a look at Ms. Rowe's comments and think about any interactions.
Perfect. And with that, that concludes, unless anyone else had anything else they'd like to share, we can go ahead and proceed to the next slide.
I don't see any other commentators at this time.
Perfect. And with that, I'll pass it over to Vice Chair Byrd. Thank you all for your participation today. And with that, I'll pass it over to Vice Chair Byrd to close us out.
Well, we are at the top of the hour. This has been a really great meeting. Really have appreciated the level of engagement and the discussion. I'm actually leaving this meeting pretty encouraged. How are you feeling, Davina?
Likewise, and there are new things we heard even from the last meeting that I think will be so positive as we move further in bringing something that works for most people, if not everyone.
Yeah, and Gideon?
I was sick when the meeting started and now I'm cured.
Well, we're very
no,
happy. We're very
I-
happy to hear that.
Amen.
I wish that were the case, but I just, we got really good participation from a wide variety of people and, really appreciated that. We are having a meeting down in Los Angeles at the Port of Long Beach. Actually, it's in Long Beach on the July 15th in the afternoon with the Harbor Trucking Association to bring a lot of this information, a little bit of a listening session, Vice Chair Berg, but also a compliance and sort of nuts and bolts seminar. We're doing that in the afternoon on July 15th with the Harbor Truckers at the Long Beach Maintenance Yard. So those folks that are in the drayage or down there in Wilmington area certainly can pop in on that meeting. Just you can reach out to the Port of Long Beach or HTA. They're publicizing that, but a lot of learnings here, and I really appreciate the participation and allowing me to participate by Zoom.
And I also absolutely agree. This is a heavy lift for everybody. This is a big deal, and it's really, really important that we get it right. I so appreciated LaDonna Williams when she said, we're not going to get everything right, but what we need to be able to get right is responding quickly and really shepherding this to success. We need to shepherd this to success. And I think that you do hear that commitment, not only from staff, but from the board members. So I'm very excited about that. In this process, we committed to really wanting to reach out for at least 2 workshops. We are going to take this information. We are going to now regroup as board members and staff that are actively engaged in this process. Our thought here is to really come with a 45-day notice that will allow us to present a memo to the board as well as reach a consensus that we can then deliver back to the executive officer, because we need to be able to adopt key amendments in order to keep the VIP program up and running, because it does sunset. Am I correct on that, Femi?
Yes, you are. Thank you for noting that. We definitely want to continue the program, and like you mentioned, we really want to do so while still allowing folks to that continuation of availability. So, but yes, we do want to get something moving, and because of that sunset date.
But it's really very apparent to my fellow colleagues that this is not going, we won't be able to conclude everything we need by the end of this amendment. And I'm hearing great enthusiasm from my colleagues for us to stay involved and to really interact and to keep driving changes that we need forward to accomplish our zero emission goals. And so with that, I think I throw that out for everybody is, as we do conclude this towards the end of the year, what else should we be doing? How should we continue to interact? What are these listening sessions, as Board Member Krakow just indicated, that LaDonna Williams said, come out to our community because we know the people. These are the types of things that we are going to need to do on the ground to make sure that we're engaging and getting this information out. So I'm excited to see, as much as wrapping up this particular task, as excited as I am about that, I'm really excited about what are our next steps going into 2023, where we see a lot of this hitting the ground finally. What should we be doing? How should we be interacting? How to gather the information and be flexible. We're going to have to become entrepreneurs here at Carb, because that's what it's going to take to do such a transformative change in the way we provide energy and we go electric. So with that, very, very excited. We have our final slide is our contact information slide. Love to bring that up. Please stay involved. And we will get back to each and every one of you as to what our next steps are. And we look forward to bringing this, first of all, to a successful close with the very focused area we started, understanding that honestly, this is just a start. Closing comments, Davina?
I think you said it well, but for me, it's looking for quick and important wins in these changes. And then for us just to be forward thinking about how we can do this all together and support one another. And so I was very thankful to hear some of those people on the ground with trucks trying to attempt to purchase these zero emission trucks and some of the barriers and challenges, and really taking that back home to heart and thinking about how we can be a part of the solution and not create a barrier ourselves in the rules and regulations we put forward. And I think we're going to get there. So thank you all for your time.
And Gideon, last comment?
Nothing to add. That's a first.
Yeah, it is. So you continue to feel better along with everybody else that's on the line that's been slightly under the weather. Thanks again to really great participation. Margarito Rodriguez, great information. I hope we can circle back. You seem to have a real touch on the community. Kevin Fairweather, great information that we got. All of the people that were boots on the ground that truly provided information. Christopher Velasco, really, really appreciated it. So everybody have a great evening, and we'll look forward to the next time we get together. Thanks.
And thanks, staff.
Yeah, great job, staff.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Vice Chair. Thanks for hosting, Board Member Hurt.
Thank you all. It's a family.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.